So aloha, welcome everyone. My name is Leon Geschwind. I am the IRC Education Outreach Specialist, and it is my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Camryn Allen, who does some amazing work with sea turtles, and I'll let her introduce herself. Go ahead, Cam, take it away.
Hey everybody, I wish I could be there in person to see your faces, and I'm really excited that I'm here and able to talk to you about how sea turtle research and conservation can help us unite humanity. First, I'd like to give you a little bit of background on who I am and where I came from. So when I was younger, I grew up in San Diego, California, and we had a little bit of land, and because of that, it allowed us to have a little tiny farm. Here in this photo is me probably 8 or 9 years old, and we had a lot of little baby ducks that we raised, as well as a lot of other just random animals. So it was really fun to grow up around wildlife, and I think that that was when my passion for animals really was solidified. Growing up in San Diego, they had the San Diego Zoo, and I was really interested in koalas. So I decided to move to Australia and study koalas for my PhD. While I was there, I became a reproductive biologist and used those skills that I learned to then study sea turtles. I moved back to San Diego and got a job at Southwest Fisheries Science Center, which is another science center that's part of NOAA in San Diego. And that was where my passion for sea turtles grew since 2011. And then I got the opportunity to take a job here in Hawaii in 2017. And I've really enjoyed living here and working among all the turtles and the people here. So I'm excited to explain a lot of the things that I've learned since moving here. But you might be wondering, why does NOAA and U.S. Fish and Wildlife care about sea turtles, and why are we interested in conserving them? One of the main reasons is because they're important for the ecosystem. They are ecosystem engineers. In this video, there's a green sea turtle off the coast of Hawaii eating some grass that has grown into the water. And this video was taken by one of our colleagues there. So I like to think of them as the lawnmowers of the ocean. As well, sea turtles also keep our coral reefs clean. This is a hawksbill sea turtle foraging in the coral reef looking for sponges. So they also keep our reefs clean. You can have a look at that beak that it has. It has a very nice hawk beak that enables it to get in those tiny crevices within the coral and get all those things that it wants to eat. All right, here's an opportunity for you to interact with us. Please type your answers in the chat. We want to know how many sea turtle species there are. 100, 7, 5, or 2. And I'm talking about the species, not the actual number of turtles in the whole entire world. I'll give you a little bit of time to put your numbers in. All right, I'm seeing 7, 7. I always see people know turtles around here. That's right. So the actual number of sea turtle species globally is 7. In the upper left, we have the smallest of the species, which is the Camryn. It's mainly found in the Gulf of Mexico. In the bottom right, we have the flatback, which is mainly found around Australia. In the upper portion, we have 3 species there, and those are actually found offshore in Hawaiian waters. So the one in the upper left is the olive ridley, and the middle one is the loggerhead. And interestingly, even though most of the time these turtles are found in offshore waters, there have been some nesting events in the main Hawaiian Islands recently. And it's usually about once every 10 years that happens, and it's been last year and the year before that has happened. So it's really exciting. Besides that, there's the leatherback turtle, which is obviously the biggest, based on the pictogram here. And they're so big that they're bigger than me. That turtle is at least 6 feet long when they're adults, and you can imagine them as big as the Volkswagen Beetle car, or like Volkswagen Bug. I'm sure you've seen those driving around. They are monsters. They're really big turtles. But the reason that we get to see these turtles in the offshore waters is because they actually get caught in commercial fisheries, which enables us to collect samples from those turtles and also sometimes attach satellite transmitters. So it's a good opportunity for us to get samples and to also learn about what they're doing in the open ocean. With that in mind, I wanted to point out how you can help save sea turtles, and that's by eating food caught by U.S. fisheries. U.S. fisheries do a really good job of decreasing the number of animals that are incidentally caught in their fishing gear, So one way to figure out if your seafood is sustainable is to look up the website fishwatch.gov, and that is a NOAA-sponsored website that gives you information about your seafood facts and if the one that you want to eat is sustainable and has reduced bycatch of unintended species. So besides our offshore turtles, we actually have 2 species that are near shore that you're going to find when you're out snorkeling. So the first is the green sea turtle, or the honu, and the second is the hawksbill, or the Inouye. And what's really interesting is while you're out snorkeling, you might see a lot of turtles. And for the most part, there's going to be the green sea turtles. And that's because green sea turtles outnumber hawksbills by about 100 to 1. So every time you're out snorkeling, most likely you're going to see a green, and if you're really lucky, you'll see a hawksbill. And remember to look for that hawk-like beak to figure out if what you're seeing is actually a hawksbill. Also, these nearshore turtles do get hooked and caught accidentally in fishing gear. So if you happen to see that, we ask you to give a phone call to the Hawaii Marine Animal Response. Here's their phone number. It's 888-256-9840. Take a picture of this slide if you want to, if you can't pop it in your phone quickly. So there's an effort about fishing around sea turtles within the main Hawaiian Islands. So the goal is for you to call the hotline for guidance, reel in the turtle, hold it by its shell, cut the line as close to the hook as possible, so as close to the animal as you can, and release the turtle with no line attached, similar to what's shown by this fisher person in the photo. So the main reason we ask you to do that is because the line actually gets entangled around their flippers, and then it can cause them to not be able to move or to potentially hurt themselves. So getting the line away from the turtle is the most important part. So not only is this phone number good for calling to help out sea turtles, it's also for monk seals and other marine mammals like whales and dolphins, if you happen to see any of them stranded on the beach and you want to give them some help. So that's 888-256-9840. I'd like to talk about the sea turtle life cycle quickly so I can jump into a little bit more detail about one specific aspect about sea turtles. So initially, you probably most know turtles for them nesting. So they're going to haul themselves out of the ocean onto the beach to do a nesting event. Once the female lays her eggs, the hatchlings hatch, and then they go and forage in the open ocean, sometimes for up to 10 years. And they're just out there hanging out, eating, and for the most part, we don't really know what they're doing. And then once they become juveniles, they leave the open ocean and they settle at these coastal foraging grounds. So the areas that you would see the turtles when you're out snorkeling here are those foraging areas where they would end up settling. And if you're ever out snorkeling, you probably see turtles from very small to very big sizes. So when they're at the foraging grounds, it gives us a good idea of the overall population of young ones and old ones, and small ones and big ones. So once they're at the foraging grounds, sea turtles become adults. What age do you think sea turtles reach sexual maturity? Type your answer in the chat box again. Is it 100 years old, 50, 25, or 1? Seeing a lot of 25s. Anybody else have any guesses? You're right. It's about 25 years old. It depends on the species, of course, and there is a wide range of ages, but it's right around 25 years old that they reach sexual maturity. Could you imagine if humans reach sexual maturity at 25? I think that'd be pretty crazy. Okay, once they become sexually mature, they then make a breeding migration. For green sea turtles within Hawaii, that's about a 500-mile trip to the northwest into the monument, so the Papahanaumokuakea Marine National Monument. And they nest at a location at Lalo, or French Frigate Shoals. So they'll make that migration about every 4 years or so. And while they're there, they will mate with each other. And then once they've finished mating, the females will then go back to nesting. So I really want to focus in on this nesting part of their life cycle, because this is where environmental impacts can really be seen for sea turtles. And I know that that was something that you guys were interested in. So field researchers work at night. So I'm going to put on my red headlamp to mimic what they would do in the field. So sea turtles are really, really impacted by light pollution. So in this photo, the white light that you see is actually from the moon. And when hatchlings hatch, they follow the location of the moon and the shining from the moon to go out to the ocean. So the researchers wear these red headlamps to prevent from spooking the female or letting her know that they're behind them. So they lay behind the turtle and watch the female lay her eggs. So she'll dig a nest and she'll lay about 70 eggs per clutch, and they're about ping pong ball sized. So when the female's laying the eggs and they're dropping into the nest, they're actually not hard like chicken eggs. They're soft and squishy. So as they're plopping in there, they're actually not going to break each other open. So when she finishes laying her eggs, she'll cover it back up. And then those eggs will incubate in the nest for about 60 to 90 days, or for about as long as your summer vacation might be if you're out of school. So then, after the female nests, the researchers just wait until the hatchlings hatch out of their nest. But during that time, it's actually the environmental conditions which are really important for determining the sex of turtles. So it's actually the temperature. So sea turtles don't have sex chromosomes which determine their sex. It's the temperature which determines if they're male or female. And what temperature is that determines whether they're male or female? So today it's probably like, I don't know, 75 degrees outside here in Hawaii. But during the summer, the average temperature is about 84 degrees. And that's actually the temperature at which, if you go higher than that, more females are produced. If it's cooler than that, then more males are produced. So if you can imagine, if you're laying on the beach during the summer, you're in the open sand, just hanging out on the beach, it feels a lot hotter than that. So if you're in a nest of turtles incubating, you're more likely to get a bit hotter than that, and we all know that it gets a lot warmer than 84 degrees in Hawaii during the summer. So during those months when it's warmer temperatures, you're going to produce even more and more female hatchlings, sometimes to the point where if it gets too hot in the nest, you might actually have embryonic death because they just get too hot and kind of don't make it. So what are we finding related to this climate change effects and warming temperatures on sea turtles? Well, it seems that there's going to be even more increase of females coming into these foraging grounds. Remember I said before that the foraging grounds give you a really good idea of what's happening in the population. There's really small, really big turtles, really young, really old. And we've been seeing that there's even more female bias in these populations, up to 7 females to 1 male off of the coast of California. Here in Hawaii, it's about 3.4 females to 1 male. And then over in Guam and Saipan, up to 2.8, and down in Australia, it's about 3.3. Let me put this in perspective for you. So back in the 80s, there was a study done in Hawaii which found about a 1-to-1 sex ratio. So since the 80s, we're starting to see this increase already within the female population. And now you might be thinking, all right, well, more females usually means more hatchlings, and that is very true. And we are expecting that that is the case. However, what we're unsure of is at what point do too many females mean that there's not enough males to mate with the females? And that's what we're trying to figure out. So how can you help save sea turtles related to these increasing temperatures? Well, decrease your impact on the environment. One way to do that is eat more fruits and vegetables, and especially fruits and vegetables grown locally. That will decrease the amount of carbon output that you're consuming. Another way is to decrease the amount of time that you're spending in cars, on the road. You could walk, bike, or scooter instead, because that doesn't really reduce or release any carbon. Once it's safe to do so, taking more public transportation is a really good idea too. Otherwise, really important for sea turtles is actually reducing the amount of plastic you use. So I suggest using your reusable water bottles, getting reusable utensils and straws, and to carry those around with you whenever you go out so that you don't have to use a lot of plastic and throw them away. Also in this photo here is a reusable bag, so I highly suggest taking that out wherever you go so that you aren't taking plastic bags. Another way you can help save sea turtles is actually by participating in research and science. And we have a community science project where we are asking you to help us out with, and we're calling it Honu Count 2021. We do this every year, and that's the hashtag we use. So we're asking that you see sea turtles And if they have a white alphanumeric number on the right side of their carapace, like these sea turtles do, for example, in the upper left, it's OA7. So that means that's the 7th turtle that we interacted with on Oahu recently. And if you see that turtle, get the location or GPS coordinates and email it to respectwildlife@noaa.gov. If you can also get a photo of the turtle with the number and email that too, that's even better. But remember, the sea turtles like social distancing too, so you got to give sea turtles 10 feet so that you get the photo safely and that you don't disturb the turtle while it's resting. So how do sea turtles unite humanity? I hope I've given you a good idea that sea turtles are pretty much all around us, and between us doing the research and you helping us out with that, and if you're a fisher or a beachgoer, you're always usually interacting with turtles or you're seeing them out there. The stranding responders that help us if there is an injured turtle, and then the community scientists and you helping us figure out where these turtles are, what habitat is their favorite, where they like to eat. That's really interesting information, and you're helping us figure that out. So thanks for all you do to help save sea turtles, and I'm happy to take any questions. Mahalo.
Thanks so much, Cam. That was really cool. Are there any
You're
questions
welcome.
from people in the chat online or over at Bishop Museum?
Anybody have questions? How many green sea turtles are there in the world?
Oh, in the world. A lot. Hundreds of thousands? There's a lot of turtles. Just in the South Pacific of Australia, where that 3.3 females to 1 male sex ratio is, there's hundreds of thousands of turtles there. It's one of the largest populations in the world. In Hawaii, there's about 4,000 breeding females. It's a smaller population, but we still have quite a lot of females here.
Any others? Okay, I think that's all the questions for now from here. So if there's any chat questions you want to answer.
Thanks, Tony. I got a quick question, Cam. You showed that slide in terms of, climate change and how those ratios are really changing and how you might not know what those effects are. When do you foresee knowing? I mean, is there a point like it's 25 years out because that's their cycle, or what's the magic number where you'll know? Or are there models that are being developed? Will you have a sense of when it'll go out of whack?
So yes, there are models being developed, and we're still working on like specific timing of when we should figure it out. But since the hatchlings that have been produced during these warming temperatures are going to be sexually mature probably in like 15, 20 years, within that amount of time, we should start seeing an effect if there will be one. So what we're still unsure is if there's a sex-based survivorship difference. So maybe it's by chance males might actually survive better than females, so then we might have a more balanced ratio. That has yet to be seen. We haven't figured that out yet, but if there is going to be an effect, it would probably be in the next decade or two. Yeah.
Thanks. I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat. So if we can give Cam a big round of applause, a big virtual round of applause. Thanks so much for your time. And just to folks know, our next session, actually, let me stop the recording here.